How's it, everybody? This so-called old town was once an old settlement that, at one point, was completely engulfed in a great fire, except for a handful of buildings by St. Nomasburg Cathedral. As a result, it left the entire place abandoned. A developer came along hundreds of years later from a nearby city and started developing again, with the aim of modernizing the area. This was done by mostly bulldozing the remains of the existing settlement, which had extended all the way up to the waterfront. The few buildings left, though in disrepair and semi-standing, in this old town place, were renovated to preserve and create a tourist attraction. Nothing about it is real anymore, just a small fantasy land of fairy tales that are a representation of some grand history that once stood upon this land. Today, this old town is just a cash grab for the city and continues to be successful because of its adorable and quaint nature. In honor of the visionary developer, this place came to be known as Das Fischerdorf, with Fischer being the last name of the developer. I want to say a big thanks to Treat Petit, also known as Urban Design Enthusiast on the Discord server, for the name suggestion and the backstory. With that, let's get into today's episode. Alright, welcome back to the Nomasburg region. Sanctum Gamer here. It's episode 12, and today we will be starting, or we'll actually be building the harbour area. So, if you might recall, I mentioned that this town was going to basically serve as the point of export, or rather the connection to the outside world via the sea or the river. This is actually not, in my mind, this is not the sea that is meeting the land here. It is just a big river, but it's big enough that ships can sail on it. So today we will put together the harbour area where I envision a lot of the goods that are produced in the Nomasburg region being exported. So we'll build a bit of a, it's not going to be too big because the point of a lot of the towns here is for them not to be massively huge, but relative to this town, this harbour is going to be, it's going to be fairly well sized. But it's not just the harbour, but it's going to have the fishing docks, it's going to have a bit of a marina and so on. But yeah, let's start off with what I'm building here. So I thought I would put something sort of resembling like a museum / cafe place. So this building, when I saw it, was quite a nice asset. I have no idea where I got this building from. I don't know if I downloaded it from the workshop or if it comes part of the standard game. But I thought it was a very nice building. I would put it down here just away from the marina, so people can come and just chill here, have a look at whatever is actually housed in this building. So in my mind, it's some kind of a museum with a cafe next to it. But yeah, I didn't really give it a lot of thought. Anyway, on the other side is the marina. And I love this asset, which is basically the, what do they call this? The boat ramp or whatever it's called. I love this asset. The only thing I wished was if I could change the color of the actual assets so that it matches the pavement that I've used around it, but I couldn't change that, so I figured it's fine, it will have to do, because building the boat ramps is it's a challenge for me. It's not something that I think I'm able to get to look any kind of realistic, so getting this asset and making use of it I thought worked out perfectly for me. And then we're going to expand this and include a few more boats, a little bit of detailing, just to kind of set up the general shape of the harbor, which will then blend into mostly the fishing docks. Now, I don't often do this high level shape up of places, but the way this place is, it's hard keeping like the right measurement in mind. So I would often get myself into this elevated position just to place things where I want them to be. So this is the main harbor sitting to the far left, and then the fishing docks towards the top of the screen. I'm going to put one more down. Now around here, I think you could only do, the way the river is, you can only do like salmon fish, fishing, shellfish, and what is the anchovy ones. So I only put those down. We draw out the routes. I don't know if these routes are realistic in any way, but I just kind of drew out the routes in such a way that I didn't have the boats having to travel for too long before getting full. And also when they do get filled up, they're not basically just coasting for a long time before getting back to the actual harbor. So that route that I drew, or at least all the routes that I drew, were meant to be as optimal as possible. I do change some of them at some points because I realized that one of them was actually coasting for a bit too long. It was coasting for about, I don't know, roughly 30% of the route, and I think that's quite inefficient, so I do make a change to one of the routes off camera. But yeah, otherwise they started bringing in a lot of fish, which was good. I don't build the fish factory or the fish market in this episode. We'll do that in the next one, but at least by the end of this episode, the fish industry is quite well on its way. The boats catching all kinds of fish, and there's quite a bit of exporting going on. The unfortunate thing is I'm not seeing a major impact to my income for the city, which is kind of a bummer. I had hoped that, once the fish industry got set up, at least I would see some profit coming in, but it's not happening yet. So it looks like we're going to have to introduce more factories, more industry, and hopefully at some point we'll actually break even. And that really is my goal, is to break even at some point. I don't know when that is going to be, but I do have plans of having a very, very big farming industry. So hopefully when we get to that, we should hopefully see a bit more money coming in. So yeah, around here, continuing the I suppose, what's this whole area called? Is the entire area called a harbor? I don't know if it's a whole harbor or the fishing docks or whatever the term is, but it's really just detailing around this place. This harbor builds are quite prop intensive. I mean, you have to put down a lot of crates, a lot of containers, a lot of decals, like just a lot of stuff just to make it look busy, because these sort of areas generally look quite busy. So I think I burnt through about, I don't know, 2,000 to 3,000 props just on this build alone. That is more than I usually average about 500 props per episode, but this just went completely out of control. So yeah, just putting down a whole bunch of warehouses, because there are lots of warehouses. This crane that I put here, I don't know why I put it down here. I don't know what I was actually thinking. So I actually get rid of it, because I realized that it didn't make sense for a crane to just be sitting here in the middle of nowhere. There's like nothing that it's lifting to any real. I suppose we could say they use it to lift containers from one place to the other, but I thought it looked really out of place. so I removed it. And this is the, what do they call this? A train yard. So this is my little train yard, putting down just a few props to give that look that there are, you know, train carts all over the place. I don't know anything about train yards. I'm just building something that looks like a train yard and get it to start bringing in cargo. Now, if you see, there's lots and lots of people walking along the road. Now, for some reason, once I connected the footpath bridge earlier on in the video, people stopped using all the roads that connected the train station to the old town area and to the other suburbs. Instead, they would take this long route just to go and use the footpath. So at some point, I think later on, I think the next episode, the episode after, I plan on building a little bridge over the actual railway lines, just to reduce the amount of foot traffic, because I think the amount of foot traffic here is just ridiculously too much, and I think it's a bit unrealistic as well. So we'll put a little bridge over there just to give the people a bit of a shortcut so that they don't have to actually walk through all of this industrial areas. Now, this fishing harbor that I put here actually wasn't working at all, and I don't know why. So when I put it down, some boats came out, and then after a while, boats just stopped spawning. So I would use move it, select it, reset it, and then boats will start spawning again. But as soon as they catch enough fish and the harbor was about 5% full, all boats will stop and it wouldn't do anything thereafter. And I tried removing it, replacing it, like it doesn't matter what I did. I changed the routes, everything. It just would not listen. So I get rid of it and I replace it with a different harbor type. I think I replaced it with a shellfish one or something, and that was working perfectly fine. So if anybody knows why the actual fish harbor asset seems to do that, I don't know if anybody else experiences it, but it really just stops spawning boats after a certain time. And it's not like there wasn't demand for fish. Even when I placed down things like the fish factory, the fish market, it just wouldn't spawn boats. So I just got around that by replacing it with a different what's this thing, fishing harbor, and that seemed to have solved the problem. But I am still curious. If anybody knows why, just let me know in the comments what could have been causing that. So yeah, I thought I would just also mention at the beginning, you saw the story for the old town. I saw a lot of your comments about how the old town, you know, doesn't fit where it is, and it doesn't look very realistic there. And it's a big factor as to why I chose the story that I chose, because I thought that story covered everything good and bad, I suppose, about the old town. So yeah, thanks very much, Treat Petit, for that story. Really loved it. Around here, I'm putting down a water treatment plant because we don't have one on the map anyway. I've currently got all of those things stacked off camera somewhere that is basically ensuring that the city continues to grow. But I decided I would eventually build one properly. This was not my initial place where I wanted to put this, but when I looked at the way the land was shaping up, I figured, it's actually not a bad spot for it at all. I didn't want to expand the harbor. I didn't want the harbor to be any bigger than it already is. So I thought this would be a nice thing to fill this whole area with. And I love these vanilla treatment plants. I think these came with the Green Cities one because they're clean. I think they look very stunning. So I used them in combination with this. I think this is a pump house and these additional animated ones. They're really nice. The fact that they keep spinning, they like the first point of entry for the sewage, arriving there and getting all the big clunky things sucked out of it. I don't know, that's what I think in my mind is happening there before it goes in through the rest of the system to get purified and whatever other thing water treatment plants do. So yeah, I tried to keep it as vanilla as possible, with the exception of, the clarifier and the pump house. And I thought the overall shape that it gave the area was quite nice, because I wanted where the harbor was and where this treatment plant is to extend out into the actual river quite a bit. So I wanted the places where the ships docked to not be right on the land, but stretch out a bit. And that's what I'm basically doing here, just stretching it out. And this is where I'm placing pretty much all the cargo, the containers. Yes, that's the word. And I got this awesome animated container thing. I don't even know what the terminology for all of these things are. I am really building this because I think it looks cool. And I got the assets that I suppose for me were most aesthetically pleasing. So this is the one that I was talking about. It's quite a nice asset. It just animates. It goes up and down. So I put these down and then stuck some containers in between them, and then basically just painted the entire area with a concrete brush. And I've actually left it paused. The reason it's paused now is because of the flooding that the water does, but I do unpause it. And yes, I do know about the reset water level, which I actually do use to get it nice and cleaned up fairly quickly. So just going to put down the containers and then basically detail out the area. Another thing what I did, and it was quite a bit of an afterthought, was just to extend a small extra piece of land into the river, so that I could put a lighthouse on it. So the lighthouse, I believe, is used to kind of signal to the ships, this is where the land begins, so stay clear. So I just extended it out a little bit, stuck a lighthouse right at the end of it, and that was that. And yeah, that is the harbor for the Nomasburg region. This town is shaping up quite nicely. I like the way it's shaping out. When you look at it aerially, I love the way the roads flow. I love how everything is basically coming together. So yeah, that is it. That's the harbor. Next episode, we will continue expanding on this, but mostly focused on the rest of the town, the residential area, and so on. So I want to say thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And I will catch you all in the next one. Bye.